First time I met Prabhupada was in Honolulu, 1972, when Prabhupada came to the temple to visit. And I don't remember very much. I was very new to ISKCON and pretty spaced out. But I do remember a couple of points. Well, one in particular. And that was that when Prabhupada sat down to chant Jaya Radha Madhava, I was just amazed at how spiritually powerful it was. And I just had this feeling like this is it, I'm blasting off right now. I'm going to the spiritual world right now. Before that, I had no understanding really of who Prabhupada was. I only knew through the books and through his disciples and through the mantra, but I didn't have any concept of Prabhupada as a person. And there he was in person. It was fantastic. The very first thing I read that Prabhupada had written was a line in one of his books that said, "This world is a world of birth, death, disease, and old age." And my immediate reaction was, finally somebody is telling me the truth. I had experimented with so many things, materialism, LSD, Buddhism, Christianity, so many things. But this nobody had said. Also impersonalism I'd experimented with. But nobody had said this, and I thought, wow, finally, that's the reality. That's the hard truth. That was really convincing. And then I got sort of accidentally caught up in a kirtan, at the end of which I had this distinct realization that the body and the soul are different. I had never before in any other way had that experience, had that realization or that perception. And so I was intrigued, to say the least. But I was still a little bit skeptical. And I thought, if this mantra is really what it seems to be, then there must be a really extensive philosophy behind it. And so I wanted to study the philosophy. But there weren't many books in those days. This was 1971. And besides that, I'd already given all my money to the devotees and they didn't have any money left to buy any books. So there are a lot of other factors involved, but to make it short, I phoned up the temple president. I'd never been to the temple. I just known devotees in other situations, but I'd never been to the temple. So I asked if I could come and visit the temple and just to see what it's like. So he had met me before, and he said, sure. I said, my idea was just go for a couple weeks, check it out. So the first day I was there, they took me out on Harinam, chanting Hare Krishna in the street. This was in Waikiki. It's a really degraded area, all kinds of sinful things going on. But I was so amazed that the devotees, we had a place to sit to do Harinam, to chant. And it seemed to me there was this sort of like transcendental bubble around them that was protecting them from all this. And they were singing so beautifully. And I saw people were stopping. And it seemed like they weren't stopping like just curious, not that kind of stopping. But it seemed like they were like stopping involuntarily, like frozen, just like whole families, you know. And then I remembered that the devotees had told me that this sound vibration goes straight to the soul. It doesn't have to go through any kind of intellectual or mental layers. It goes straight to the soul. And I thought, wow, I'm seeing it. That's what's happening. And they had also said, this is the highest welfare work. And for some time I had been wanting to do welfare for humanity, but I didn't know what. I tried different things, but it was not satisfying. But this, I thought, wow, highest welfare work, that's what I want to do. And so I was thinking, okay, this mantra is touching their hearts, touching the soul. And Plus, they were distributing Back to Godhead magazines, a few devotees were. And so people who are more interested, they get the knowledge, they get the philosophy. And I thought, this is it. This is the highest welfare work. And I decided right then, this is how I want to spend the rest of my life. And when we got back to the temple at 10 o'clock at night, there were a couple of brahmacharis shaving their heads. And they asked me if I want to shave my head. And I thought, well, I already had tilak on, I had a dhoti, and I decided this is how I want to spend the rest of my life. So I said, okay. First time I got my head shaved. In the early 70s in ISKCON, there was what was called the library party. It was a special, you could say, elite party of just a few devotees whose remit was to go to professors and librarians and try to sell standing orders of Prabhupada's books. Standing order meant that they were buying all the books that Prabhupada had already published, plus all the books that he would publish in the future. And if we couldn't sell standing orders, then we could sell a set of Chaitanya Charitamritas, a set of Bhagavatams, or individual Gitas, or whatever. So Satsvarup Maharaj very mercifully invited me to join this party at Ratha Yatra 1974 in San Francisco when Srila Prabhupada was there. And later, so then we traveled around the United States. And in early 75, we were in the South, American South. And I met a history professor. We would go into the library of each school and we would select from the course catalog the professors that we thought could be suitable for what we had to do. So this lady was a professor of Southeast Asia. So one of our standard lines was that the culture of Southeast Asia, much of it comes from India. So that's one of the things I told her. And she said, well, that's not the modern thinking now. And I said, what do you mean that's not the modern thinking? I said, you're a history professor, right? Isn't a history professor concerned with facts, with what happened, right? And she said, no. She said, in every period of time, there is some particular professor, prominent professor. He's prominent in the field, and his way of thinking about the situation, that's what everybody else follows. And she said, we're not interested, we're not concerned with facts. And that really stuck in my mind. I was just amazed. I don't think she took a book, I don't remember, but maybe. Anyway, a few weeks later, I was in Atlanta with the rest of the library party, so this was what, February or March 1975, and Prabhupada was there. There were a few hundred devotees there from all over the United States, especially the East. And Satsvarup Maharaj, of course, he had influence because he was a GBC and a sannyasi, and he arranged for us to be able to go on one of the morning walks. Not just anybody could go on a morning walk. It was GBC members, sannyasis, temple presidents, people that were prominent. But he worked it out that one day we got to go on the morning walk. So I don't remember which members of the library party were on the walk. Satsvarup Maharaj, of course, was there. But I do remember Ganesham Prabhu and Mahadyuti Prabhu and me. At least the three of us were there. And somehow or other, Ganesham Prabhu, almost right at the beginning, got into a dialogue with Prabhupada. Now, even at that early stage, Ganesham Prabhu had started becoming sort of prominent in ISKCON. So he was not exactly a big shot yet, but he was going in that direction. Anyhow, everybody knew him. And he got into this dialogue with Srila Prabhupada, and I'm listening to it, and I'm just burning with envy. And I'm thinking, okay, Ghanashyam Prabhu is the biggest distributor on our party. Fine, I understand that. Oh, then Mahadyuti Prabhu also chimed in a couple of things. Okay, and he's the second biggest distributor. I understand that. But I'm also going out every day distributing Prabhupada's books to professors and librarians. And I also want to have a dialogue with Prabhupada. So I don't remember, you know, my envy was so great that I don't even remember what Prabhupada was saying. I don't remember the topic or anything. I was just thinking, I want to get into this dialogue. I want to be involved. So then, at one point, Srila Prabhupada said, we simply have to give them the facts. And it just rang a bell in my brain from my experience with that lady, with the historian, that she said they don't care for facts. So without even thinking about what I was doing, just really spontaneously, I just blurted out, but Srila Prabhupada, they say they don't care for facts. Now, you can hear on Morning Walk recordings, you can hear Prabhupada's cane. He's going click, click, click. And then all of a sudden, on this occasion, it was click. And Prabhupada stopped short. His eyes were flashing. And he just looked right at me. And he said, then we do not care for you. I must have jumped about a foot in the air because everybody started laughing. There are all these big GBC men and sannyasis and all kinds of big shots. I was a really insignificant person. Nobody knew who I was or anything. And, you know, everybody's laughing. I thought, this isn't funny. My spiritual master just said he doesn't care for me. It took me, I don't know, probably at least 24 hours to understand that Prabhupada wasn't talking about me, he was talking about the professors. So, anyway, then I concluded from that experience, maybe better just to let Ghanashyam Prabhu have the dialogues with Prabhupada. When Prabhupada did come to Honolulu, when he was lecturing, I don't remember very much of what he was saying, but what I do remember was that in one lecture, there was a brahmachari there named Ananda Das. And Prabhupada said something in his lecture about we should be grateful for modern technology. And Ananda Das let out this big guffaw, you know, really loud laugh in a relatively small room. And Prabhupada stopped and he said, no. He said, do not laugh. He said, of course we should be thankful for modern technology. Otherwise, how could we spread Krishna consciousness all over the world? That made a big impression on me. Another thing is that in that particular temple, the temple president didn't believe in buying boga, which is a whole other story. But in particular, no milk. And I was really attached to milk and milk products, and I was really suffering separation. And I was thinking about it like all day, every day, about how I just wanted some cream cheese or something. And then in the middle of the lecture, I don't remember what the verse was, I don't remember anything except what I do remember is that in the middle of the lecture, Srila Prabhupada started talking about the glories of milk products. And my ears really perked up. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. This means Prabhupada knows. He knows what's going on here, that we're being, how do you say, deprived of milk products. And he was going on glorifying milk products. And I thought, that this is great. This is Prabhupada's indirect way of giving a message to the temple president. Apparently the temple president didn't get that message because nothing changed. In 1977, of course, Srila Prabhupada was physically extremely ill and getting worse and worse and worse. And it was becoming more and more apparent that probably he was going to be leaving his body. And so devotees, a lot of devotees were going to Vrndavan to be with Prabhupada. And I went with 2 other devotees from America. We arrived in Vrndavan at Krishna Balaram Mandir in the middle of the night. I don't remember what time, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or something, I don't know. And we went immediately to Prabhupada's room. It was dark, it was very quiet, there was nobody there. But we just walked in very quietly. The only person who was there was Bhavananda Maharaj. He was attending to Prabhupada's needs. And he just motioned for us to come in and sit down quietly. So we did that. We sat not too near the bed, but maybe a meter away or something. And then, and Prabhupada, of course this was before the internet, so we didn't get to see so many photographs very quickly, but we did understand that Prabhupada was emaciated, incapacitated. We'd seen photos from London, from his visit to London. And so Prabhupada was lying on his back, apparently asleep. And then Bhavananda Maharaj said, Srila Prabhupada said very quietly, Srila Prabhupada, these boys have come all the way from America just to be with you. And Srila Prabhupada turned his head just slightly toward us, and he said, oh, thank you very much. How are you? Now the 3 of us were more or less 30 years old and relatively healthy, and we were really embarrassed. We just looked at each other like, you know, how are we? You know, Srila Prabhupada, how are you? We didn't say anything because it felt so awkward, but that's the way we felt. And it was just another illustration of how humble Srila Prabhupada was and how much he cared for other living entities, even in his own very difficult circumstances. As I recall, at the time, the thing that I found most compelling was that Srila Prabhupada was a revolutionary. He was making a real revolution. This was, you know, I came of age in the 60s, right? Revolutionary time in America. But I tried the Timothy Leary revolution, and I didn't last very long with that, a couple of years maximum. And somehow or other, I just never got into the political revolution, the Students for a Democratic Society and that kind of thing. It just never attracted me. Burning buildings and stuff, it wasn't my thing. But this was a real revolution. And this was definitely what I was looking for. Prabhupada was a revolutionary. Jai Anilo Premadana Karuna Prachu